Life in a small American town has always had its own special charm. In the town of Fairview, hidden among the green hills of Pennsylvania, time seems to have stopped. Here, people knew each other by name, and the main street retained its old architecture with the same pharmacy, cafe, and grocery store that had stood here since the 1950s. In the center of the city was the old Star Cinema, where classic films were shown. It was a place where residents gathered to remember the past, laugh, and cry over painfully familiar stories. Local residents liked to reminisce about how they used to go on dates here in their youth, or how they brought their children here for their first movie. Among the residents of Fairview was Mrs. Grace, an 85-year-old woman with lively eyes and a tireless smile. Grace lived in this town all her life and was its true soul. She had a talent for telling stories that captivated listeners. Her voice was soft and melodious, as if she herself was part of the music playing in the Star Cinema. One day, Grace decided to organize a special evening at the cinema. She approached the owner, Mr. Bailey, and asked to see a movie from her childhood. Mr. Bailey was happy to oblige, and the cinema's posters carried the announcement: An Evening to Remember with Mrs. Grace, a special screening of a film from the 1940s. When the evening came, the hall was filled to capacity. Grace took the stage and began to talk about the first time she saw the film with her future husband, John. It was an evening in the post-war autumn of 1946, when life was returning to normal, and they were both young, in love, and full of hope. The movie started, and for many in the audience, it was not just a movie session, but a trip back in time, to the days when the world seemed simpler and safer. Everything changed when the words, "Dedicated to John Grace, beloved husband and father who will always be in our hearts," appeared on the screen at the end of the film. The city of Fairview always remembered John as a kind man, a war veteran, and someone who did everything to make this world a better place. But it wasn't until this evening that people realized how deep his love for Grace was. Everyone gave a standing ovation, and even those who didn't know John personally felt like they were part of this great story. After the film, Grace stayed in the cinema, answering questions and sharing memories with the younger generations. They listened to her attentively, as if she was telling not only her story, but the story of each of them. That evening in Fairview, the Star Cinema became a place where the past and the present intertwined, where people understood that stories, even the simplest ones, have great power to preserve and transmit love and memory.